Well, that is the million-dollar question. So far, there have only been two police officers who were arrested, and the charges were for negligence and not for answering calls immediately. However, one of the most often heard criticisms about the South Korean government's response is that there hasn't been any single senior government official who is held responsible. And that's been one of the core demands of many of the victims' families.
And that's despite police admitting that some errors occurred on the night. Is that correct? What was actually discovered through the inquiries?
What was discovered is that there were a number of individuals who had called police officers telling them about an incident of people overcrowding, of people screaming for help. But what ended up happening was many of these police officers, they did not pay attention to these calls. Instead, they stayed on their regular beats. And so that was a catalyst that got a number of these police officers investigated. About 20 people were investigated, two were arrested. However, the big issue was, should any government official be reprimanded for this? Now, President Yoon has been told repeatedly, time and time again, that he has to take responsibility, that he has to apologize. But what eventually ended up happening was that the blame primarily laid with municipal officers and with the police officers who had, according to their findings, neglected to do their jobs adequately.
So how are families responding on the one-year anniversary, and what are they calling for?
The families are obviously still quite furious. What they're calling for specifically is for a special law. And what this special law would entail would be the appointment of a special prosecutor who would be able to investigate all of the things that happened that night. Particularly, they are focusing on two people, and that's the Interior Minister and the President himself. Now, the president might be not someone that they're going after right away specifically, but especially the Interior Minister. Right after the incident happened, what the Interior Minister had said was that at first they did not feel that there were a sufficient number of people to be concerned about, and that even if there had been more police officers at the scene, it wouldn't have actually led to a different outcome. And this caused a firestorm. A lot of people demanded his apology, his resignation. President Yoon Sung-yeol, he did not heed any of these demands and did not fire his interior minister, which led to his impeachment. Now, he was impeached, however, about 167 days later, the Constitutional Court in Korea overturned that impeachment, which allowed him to return to his job. And so the families are demanding that there is still yet to be any accountability from these senior officials, and so the need for this special law.
Meanwhile, many South Koreans are commemorating the people that were killed in this tragedy. Gatherings have not been banned in Itaewon over Halloween this year, but crowd control plans have been enacted.
They have indeed, yes. Police officers were stationed all around Itaewon, and not just in Itaewon, but also in the other popular spots where people like to gather for celebratory events. Areas like Hongdae and Myeongdong, where a lot of people congregate. The police officers had all been deployed over there to make sure that any such incident like what happened last year does not happen again. And this year, the Halloween festivities were very much subdued.
What are some of the stories that we've heard from the families who have been affected? How are they coping 1 year on?
Well, besides their anger at not having any government officials reprimanded or having to face responsibility, another thing that they have been furious about is the treatment of their families. One such incident that kept on popping up was incident reports about how these victims who have been killed in this tragic accident were eventually investigated for whether or not they might have taken drugs. And so that's something that the parents have been very furious about.
Well, John Lee, we really appreciate your time in talking to us about this. Thank you.
Thank you.